Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. I don't have a lot of time today, but I wanted to take a second to talk about something I saw in the media today. A lot of people are giving John Legend a lot of heat right now because he was, he's a pretty prominent, he was one of the most prominent celebrities, if not the most prominent, to appear in the documentary Surviving R. Kelly. And John, because I believe John is a good person, I believe John wants to do the right thing. John was very vocal in terms of speaking out against the things that R. Kelly did toward women, the disrespect he showed toward women, the mistreatment of women, and especially the abuse of young girls. I think that's the part that most people agree on is that R. Kelly, got with some young girls, and that's not appropriate. You just don't do that. I think that when it came to the choices of adult women, over the age of 21, over the age of 18, who chose to, go to his house and stay there, people had a harder time understanding that, right? Because, if he says you can go, if there's, one of the ladies on the documentary says, well, we were locked in the room, but then she says, when I got tired of it, I just packed up my bags and left. Well, a lot of grown people can't understand that. They're just like, wait a minute, was it that you were locked in there, you couldn't leave, or you could just go when you wanted? Because if you could just go when you wanted, and the man's giving you money and Gucci, and you're living the life and traveling around the world, and that's what you want, people aren't going to really have a lot of sympathy for that. And that's what I'm noticing in terms of when I'm seeing the back and forth and the conversations and the confusion. But anyway, with John Legend, where John is kind of being hit hard, and I kind of thought this was going to happen, is there were people who saw a picture of him with Harvey Weinstein. Now, if you know anything about Harvey Weinstein is a serious pervert, as bad as R. Kelly, maybe worse. Harvey Weinstein, a lot of people knew that his whole expectation was, if you want me to help you out, you got to sleep with me. A lot of women voluntarily did it. I'm sure a lot of women offered him sex. When men get in those positions, there are people that it's not a one-way transaction a lot of times. Sometimes the person comes up to the powerful man and says, hey, let's sleep together. Then when they start sleeping together, she's like, hey, by the way, I'd like to be in that movie. Put me in that movie, right? So, that coercion, that sort of weird transaction, it's not uncommon in Hollywood. It's not just one or two people. It's not just Bill Cosby and R. Kelly. It's very broad. It's very pervasive, and I think that what people have an issue with John Legend, as well as the deeper issue with the R. Kelly thing, is I think a lot of people are asking, why is it pretty much the black men that have been chosen as the faces of pedophilia? Why is it the black men that have been chosen as the faces of sexual exploitation or inappropriate conduct when there are hundreds, if not thousands, of white men in Hollywood that are engaged in the same thing? If they were to go into the LGBT community, I mean, think about this. Ed Buck is a big political donor. They found two gay black men dead at his house. Two. I mean, you got one dead person at your house. That's one thing, but two, and they're all getting high together, crystal meth or whatever they're doing, and then there's just so much that's happening in Hollywood. There's a whole pedophile ring in Hollywood. They literally rings where all these little kids that are in these movies are being raped, by these white men, mostly gay white men, and they don't talk about it because they're white and because they're gay. The LGBT community is kind of protected from a lot of this stuff, whereas I think that the black male is kind of low-hanging fruit for the Me Too movement. Now, so it doesn't mean that R. Kelly is not a good guy or a bad guy, whatever. We know he is. At least I do. I've been speaking about R. Kelly for 20 years. People didn't listen. Back 2002, I was like, let's stop listening to his music. This guy is garbage. But people didn't really care. People wanted to hear his music. So I'm not a fan of R. Kelly, but I do understand the point that people are making where they're saying, why do we always kind of feel like the black men are kind of the safe, easy targets to go after? There are white men in Hollywood who are also extorting and exploiting black women. There's that Jewish guy. There's a Jewish agent who, again, he's Jewish, so he's going to be protected. But he actually is responsible for the success of people like Halle Berry and Taraji P. Henson. And it's well known that he would tell the black women, hey, you have sex with me, I can make you famous, right? Now, some people don't even think there's anything wrong with that, because a lot of times people, if they start having sex with you, they'll say, well, I expect you to make me famous, right? Like, you know, if you're sleeping with a woman and she says, oh, I know you're directing this movie, put me in that movie, a lot of guys will feel pressured to put her in that movie, and nobody would file charges against her or tell her that she's a bad person. They would say, well, yeah, that's your girlfriend, you should help her out, right? But then I think the other way around, it's kind of become this weird sort of thing where adult exchanges, adult interactions between grown-ass people is sort of being seen almost like as child molestation or rape. I don't think that that's quite the same. I think there can be a conversation, but it has to be intelligent. But I think with John Legend, I think John Legend's big issue is now, you know, with this picture of Harvey Weinstein coming up, and you know, the fact that he's worked with Weinstein on many, many occasions. I mean, he didn't just work with him once or meet him one time, take one picture with him one time. You know, they were close. You know, these were the power brokers that got him opportunities. They got, you know, got him into movies or whatever it was he was doing, and so people brought up that picture. Now, I don't think it was wrong for them to bring up that picture. I think John has to answer for that picture. John may not feel comfortable answering for that picture, but I think that that's what you're going to kind of see with when celebrities sort of go in on this R. Kelly thing or going on the Bill Cosby thing. People are going to go back and say, well, wait a minute. Here's the white guy who also was into crazy stuff. You know, who also was doing horrible things to women, who also is being accused of some crazy stuff. But you haven't done a documentary about him. You haven't gone out of your way to speak against him. You haven't really kind of done your due diligence on this, right? And you didn't do it back then, back when it wasn't popular, when it wasn't cool to speak. See, I think that I'm definitely curious about which celebrity spoke up against R. Kelly when it wasn't cool to talk about R. Kelly. You know, there was a time 10 years ago where if you spoke against R. Kelly, people would come back and attack you. Now everybody's kind of doing it. Now it's kind of easy, right? And I kind of respect those people who did it when it wasn't easy. And there are people out there. I'm trying to think about who was speaking. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it seemed like everybody just kind of ignored it, and it irked the shit out of me. But the thing about John Legend that's interesting is that John is saying that he had no idea about Harvey Weinstein at that time. You know, that the pictures were taken, that he was working with him, and a lot of people call bullshit on that because a lot of people knew about Harvey Weinstein back then. A lot of people knew what he was doing. A ton of people knew. It was no secret in Hollywood that Harvey Weinstein had this thing going on when it came to women. Oprah knew. Hillary Clinton was taking pictures with him. She knew. A lot of people knew. I knew. How do I know? I'm not a Hollywood insider. I just know a couple of people, and they just told me about it. And I mean, but I'm not in blockbuster movies and, you know, deep in Hollywood. I mean, I go to LA a few times. I know some people out there, but I'm not John Legend, right? I'm in terms of, you know, being deep with these whites and Jews and gay people and all that. I don't roll in deep in those spaces like that. He's pretty deep in those spaces. The white Jew gayish Jewish gay community, like, they love John Legend. Like, he's like their guy. So I just think it's kind of hard for people to believe that you didn't know, because you did know. I think that what was probably going on was, and again, I'm not dissing John Legend because I actually respect the guy in terms of how smart he is. I think he's very smart. I think he's conscientious. He's a good person. But I'm going to say I think he did know. And I think that what was probably the dynamic was, you know, one, you know, speaking up against Harvey Weinstein would have ruined his career. And that's why he didn't feel compelled to do that. At the time, speaking up on Weinstein. Now it's easy to speak on Weinstein, but back then it would have took a lot of courage that a lot of people didn't have. I mean, again, there's pictures on Oprah with this guy, right? I think John Legend probably took a special interest in the R. Kelly case because he cares more about what's happened in the black community than anywhere else. So to that, he deserves credit for that, right? But then, you know, simultaneously, I think that there's the other parallel issue that it's much easier to sort of do a public lynching of a black man than it is to do one of a white guy, a powerful white man. And that's the issue that our society has to confront, because we know R. Kelly is not a good person. That's not even up for debate in terms of in terms of what he did with those women, and those, especially the little girls, the little girl part. I don't think many people can disagree with that. But I think I really wonder if the same thing would have happened if R. Kelly were Harvey Weinstein. Like, if Harvey Weinstein was accused of the exact same thing as R. Kelly, and even against black girls, I don't believe Lifetime would have made that documentary. And I think that becomes the question. Like, I think that if R. Kelly, I think if R. Kelly had done that with, if it were R. Kelly and he were doing that with white girls, they would have made the documentary 15 years ago and he'd be done. He wouldn't have made any music after 2005. He'd be in prison. He'd be a jailbird, singing as a jailbird. But if it were a white guy doing that to black women, I don't think Lifetime would have made that documentary. I don't think John Legend would have appeared in that documentary. I think that if this were, surviving Harvey Weinstein or surviving whatever that white guy's name is, who works with Taraji and Hallie, who has been accused of basically, forcing black women into sex, to get movie roles and all that. I don't really think that people will be so quick to jump on that bandwagon because there would be a price to pay. There would be a huge price to pay. With R. Kelly, the price ain't that high. It's it's easy. If I go buy something at the mall and it's $10, that's not a big deal. But if it costs me $1,000, I might think twice about paying that price. So I think with John Legend, I think the people are right to question him about that Harvey Weinstein thing and to ask, not to ask. It's almost like lynching. Like back in the day when they did lynchings, they didn't lynch just average black people most of the time. Most of the time they didn't go and say, let's go get that little old lady who's not hurting anybody and lynch her. No, what they do is they go get the criminal, the person who was accused of a crime and may have committed a crime, who's waiting on trial or whatever. And they'll lynch that person. And they'll say, well, we're not lynching all the niggas. We're just lynching that nigga over there. Well, the problem is that the black people at that time had a reason to feel unsafe because they knew that once they got done lynching the criminal, they were going to start coming for the regular people. And that's what Hitler did. Hitler would go after the criminals first in the Jewish community. Then he started going after the regular Jews. So I think that when you talk about the R. Kelly thing, it's very important to be intelligent in terms of saying, okay, we know R. Kelly's a pedophile. We know R. Kelly is probably a predator in a lot of different ways beyond the pedophilia. But R. Kelly is not a typical black man. Do not get into the action of extrapolation where you start saying R. Kelly is a predator. R. Kelly is a black male. Therefore, black males are predators. That's where you get into this Nazi lynching kind of mindset where all black men are in danger. And so I think with John Legend, I think that people were right to kind of challenge him and say, we know, okay, if you're in the business of pointing out predators, if you're in the business of pointing out pedophiles, if you're in the business of pointing out bad actors in the public space, how many white guys are you lining up to expose in addition to the black guys you're exposing? Because there are far more white men. There are far more white men engaged in this kind of behavior than there are black men out there engaged in this behavior. Just by numbers in terms of percentage of the population, there's I think 7 or 8 white men in the U.S. for every 1 black man or something like that. So in Hollywood, I'd be curious to know how eager John Legend is to call out all the pedophiles in Hollywood. How eager are you to call out the gay pedophiles? Gay pedophilia is huge in Hollywood. I mean, it's ridiculous, how many gay men there are that are sleeping with young boys. But they will put R. Kelly's track record to shame. I don't think John Legend's going to speak up on that. I think that the LGBT and feminist Me Too people kind of own John Legend. He's deep in that space. I don't think he's ever going to challenge them the way he's quick to challenge black folks. And I think that's the part that is going to cause people some issue. And I would like to see John Legend be equally diligent about finding a white male who's gay in Hollywood, because he knows who they are, because he knows everybody. A gay white male in Hollywood, gay Jewish white male. Let's just go deep, because Hollywood is kind of run. You got the gay mafia is real, the Jewish mafia is real, the racism is real, right? Find a white gay Jewish man, and bust him out exactly like you did R. Kelly. We'll support you on that. The whole community will have your back. I'd be curious to see if he does that. I bet you he won't, because again, it's easier to, as I wrote about this in my book, What If George Bush Were a Black Man? No one can ever go through life and say that no black man ever commits a crime. We know that's not true. The point of that book was to say that when a black man has committed a crime, it's seen differently by society than when a white man commits the same crime. And that proves my theory exactly. Who's the white R. Kelly? That's the bottom line question I want to ask everybody to ask themselves. Just discuss this in the comments, give us your take. But who's the white R. Kelly that's going to be called out the same way the black R. Kelly was? or is this sort of public hanging, if you will? Again, the due process is out the window, but then again, he did have his trial. There's a lot of evidence against him, so it's hard to defend this guy. Although personally, I was always curious about all the facts. I'd like to know what the roles of other players were. What are the roles of the parents that, were bringing their children to him? I don't care what anybody says. Good parenting plays a part in exposing your children to predators. Anybody who says that it doesn't matter is full of it, because you're saying parents have no power, which is an absolute lie. And so, because predators will never go away. You could kill R. Kelly tomorrow, but there's 1,000 of them to take his place. And if you tell me good parenting doesn't matter, that means you're just praying that these predators don't grab your kids. And I know good parents, and I know good parents who have children in entertainment, and they're like, oh hell no, my child will I'm with my child all the time. There's no chance my child is going to go backstage with R. Kelly, or go in the studio with R. Kelly, or go on a trip with R. Kelly, right? So anybody who says parents don't play a role is probably being overly political. They're lying to themselves. We all play a role, right? So my point at the end of the day, final question, I'm gonna bounce after I do this, is who is the white R. Kelly, and are the John Legends of the world as quick to go after that person as they are to go after black people or a black man, right? Not defending R. Kelly, but I'm sort of speaking on the issue in general, and curious to see what you guys think. So I'm about to go. Have a good day, and don't forget to hit the like button, share button, and subscribe button before you go. And if you want to get notified when I go live, or when I go online, text the word "boys" to 31996. Just text "boys" to 31996. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day. Peace.